The bookmakers do have weaknesses, and these days it is in what we call prop betting in football. Prop betting is huge over in America, but in Europe many punters shy away from it for various reasons. But really, this is where the bookies are often at their weakest, and there can be opportunities for us. So let's go through some of the best player prop bets in football, how they work, and how to actually get an edge from them. So let's start with the first one. The first prop bet is shots. This is the best place to start for most bettors because it's simple, consistent, and directly linked to player role. A shots bet is exactly what it sounds like. You're betting on a player to take a certain number of shots in the match. That might be 1 or more, 2 or more, or even 3 or more depending on the line. The key advantage here is that you don't need the player to score, you just need them to be involved enough to take shots. That's a big difference. When I first started out, I used to focus almost entirely on goal scorers. I'd look at a striker, think he was in form, and back him to score without thinking much beyond that. And more often than not, I'd be frustrated when he had chances but didn't score. Football is a low-scoring match as it is, so betting on goal scorers alone can be frustrating. Anyway, shots remove that problem. Now you're betting on the process, not the outcome. The way to get an edge here is by focusing on volume. You want players who consistently shoot. Strikers are obvious, but also look at wide forwards who cut inside and attacking midfielders who like to shoot from range. Another one I like is the central midfielder, especially a defensive one who might take a pot shot from distance. Think about a player like Declan Rice who will often try his luck from distance but rarely score or even hit the target. You still get paid just for the shots, and you get much better odds on players like this who fly under the radar. A common situation might be a strong home favorite. They dominate possession, they create chances, and their main striker ends up being marked out of the game, which leads to some of their more defensive players trying their LCK from distance. That's exactly the type of profile you're targeting. Now the second one is shots on target. This is similar, but slightly more advanced. Instead of just needing the player to shoot, you now need the shot to be on target. So naturally this is a bit harder to land, but the odds are better. This market works best when you find players who not only shoot often, but shoot from good positions. For example, a striker getting chances inside the box is far more likely to hit the target than someone shooting from distance. A lot of bettors make here is assuming more shots equals more shots on target. That's not always true. You can have a player taking 4 shots, but none of them are actually testing the goalkeeper. So the edge comes from quality of chances, not just quantity. Players I like to look for with this are not your typical main strikers, but actually the wingers. The obvious main strikers often get marked out of the game, and the odds are typically very low on them too. But wingers cutting in from the left or the right can often hit the target, and the odds on these players are often much better than backing the main striker. Now the next one is really interesting, and that's passing. This is one that a lot of casual bettors completely ignore. A passing prop is usually based on a player completing a certain number of passes in the match. This might be a centre-back needing 60 passes or a midfielder needing 50. And what makes this market attractive is that it's based on rhythm, not moments. You're not waiting for something dramatic to happen. You're betting on how the game is likely to flow. The edge here comes from possession. If a team is expected to dominate the ball, their defenders and midfielders will naturally rack up passes. For example, let's say a top team is playing at home against a weaker side. They might have 65 or 70% possession. That means their centre-backs are constantly recycling the ball, building attacks, and keeping control. That's where passing props can become very strong. But an opportunity that flies under the radar is to look for underdogs who regularly keep good possession and looking to back their central midfielder. The markets typically offer better odds on passing for players who are on the underdog team, as they expect that team to be dominated in possession, but this is not always the case. Check recent possession stats for the underdog. Even when they lose, and if they regularly maintain 45% or higher, you could have a good angle into the match. By the way, if you like videos like this and want to see more on this subject, remember to absolutely smash the like button for us. It tells us which types of videos to make more of. And while you're there, you should hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss a system or strategy video. We also have a free Telegram channel where we share free predictions. The link for that is in the video description. This next one catches a lot of bettors out, and that's fouls and cards. This is where player props start to become more about matchups than stats. A fouls bet is usually based on a player committing a foul. A cards bet is based on whether they get booked. Now the mistake people make is thinking this is about aggressive players. But it's not just that, it's about situations. For example, imagine a full backup against a very tricky winger. He's constantly being run at. Eventually, he's going to mistime a challenge or pull the player back. That creates foul and card opportunities. Or think about a defensive midfielder facing a team that breaks quickly. He may have to stop counterattacks. Again, that leads to fouls and potentially cards. Out of curiosity actually, which do you think is easier to predict, attacking props like shots or defensive ones like fouls and cards? Because when you really understand matchups, defensive props can actually be very predictable. My favorite angle for betting on fouls or cards is usually during the in-play. The bookies are slow to react to this, and if you see a player commit a foul but not get booked, then backing him for a card can often offer great value odds. Similarly, when a team is winning, a nice value bet to look for is to back the goalkeeper of the winning team to get a card. You often get great odds on this, and they can easily pick up a yellow card for time wasting the late stages. Anyway, this is where tools like Statto can really help. Instead of manually checking players across multiple matches, Statto already includes shots and fouls and cards prop bet prompts. So you can generate a short list of potential opportunities much faster and then apply these filters on top. Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on the screen. Now the next one is tackles. This is one of the most underrated prop markets. A tackles bet is based on whether a player makes a certain number of tackles in the match. And again, this is all about role and game script. If a team is expected to be out of possession, their defensive players will naturally have more opportunities to make tackles. For example, a defensive midfielder playing against a strong attacking side is likely to be very busy, or a fullback facing a winger who constantly dribbles at defenders will be forced into challenges. A common mistake here is looking only at averages. A player might average 3 tackles per game, but if the match situation changes, that number might not apply. So the quick tip is to always think about whether the match will create the opportunities needed for that stat. And finally, the last one is assists and chances created. This is more advanced, but it can be very powerful. An assist bet means you need the player to set up a goal, but that can be quite high variance because someone still has to finish the chance. That's why chances created or key passes can sometimes be a better option if available. You're betting on the player creating opportunities, not relying on someone else to score. The best players for this are usually set-piece takers and creative midfielders. If a player takes corners and free kicks, they have multiple chances to create danger. And that's where the edge comes in. Most bettors focus on who might score, but often the better angle is looking at who is supplying the chances. And that brings us to the most important point of the whole video. Player props are not about guessing which player is good. They are about understanding what that player is likely to do. Goals are the outcome, but props let you bet on the process. Shots show attacking involvement, passes show control, fouls and cards show defensive pressure, tackles show workload, assists show creativity. Once you start thinking like that, the markets become much easier to read. Now before we wrap up, there are a few really important mistakes to avoid with player props, because these are the small details that can quietly cost you money if you ignore them. The first one is not checking the lineups. This sounds obvious, but it catches a lot of bettors out. You might do all your research, find a great angle on a player, and then they don't even start the match. Or worse, they come on for the last 20 minutes and you're relying on them to hit a number that was based on a full 90. And not all bookmakers will void that bet. Some will settle it as a loss if the player doesn't meet the criteria. So this is something you always want to confirm before placing the bet. Make sure the player is starting, and ideally in the role you expect them to play, because even a slight positional change can affect the outcome. Now the next mistake is not understanding the rules of the bookmaker you're using. Different bookmakers treat player props differently. Some offer what's called a safe sub option, which means if your player is substituted, their replacement can still contribute towards the bet. So for example, if you've backed a player for shots and they come off, the player who replaces them can continue adding to that total. That's a massive advantage, because it reduces the risk of your bet being cut short unexpectedly. Other bookmakers don't offer this at all, so if your player comes off early, that's it. Your opportunity is gone, and over time, that difference adds up. So it's always worth knowing exactly what rules you're playing under. Another mistake I see quite often is focusing purely on the player and ignoring the match. People will look at a player's averages, see that they hit a certain number regularly, and back it without thinking about the situation. But player props are heavily influenced by the game itself. If the match doesn't create the right conditions, the numbers don't matter. A player might average 3 shots per game, but if their team is under pressure, not creating chances, or playing a completely different style in that match, those opportunities might never come. So you always want to think about how the game is likely to play out, not just what the player has done in the past. And finally, this is a big one, forcing props that aren't really there. Because there are so many markets available, it's easy to feel like you always need to have a bet. Shots, passes, tackles, cards, there's always something to pick. But just because the market exists doesn't mean there's value in it. The best bettors are selective. They wait for the right situation, the right matchup, the right role, and if it's not there, they simply leave it. So if you take anything from this section, it's that the edge in player props often comes from the small details: lineups, roles, rules, and match context. Get those right, and you put yourself in a much stronger position straight away. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you smash the like button to support the channel and encourage us to make more videos just like this. Also hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you never miss out future videos. And there's another video on the screen right now. Click that one next and keep learning. I'll see you over there.